What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and today we're going to be going over some patch notes. These just dropped. I'm reading over these for the second time. I did go through them all before loading up the recording here, but I'm going to go through these, let you know on some of my thoughts, and then after that I'm going to open up some collector's reserves to pick up the cards that have just dropped down to Series 3. So to kick things off, we've got the patch highlights, which starts off with Kitty Pryde returning to Marvel Snap. I kind of forgot about Kitty Pryde now. She's not going to be as good as people initially thought she would be. So that's going to take a little bit of the wind out of the sails. We'll get to more of that in just a bit. New feature, deck cosmetics customization. This is an interesting one. I think being able to set avatars and titles to decks is kind of interesting, and even card backs. I generally don't take advantage of this too much. I could see wanting to do so, but it's also tricky. Like, do you play with your Goose avatar when you are playing with your Goose deck? Well, if you do that, then you kind of give your opponent some information on what you might be playing. One thing that I could potentially see doing is like playing with the Herald of Galactus title whenever I'm not playing Galactus, but then when I'm playing Galactus using a different one. But it's also kind of like more effort than it's worth, and I want to show off the Herald of Galactus one. For the most part, I will say cosmetic things in games are generally something that doesn't really concern me, which I know is a huge draw for a lot of like the monetization in games. It's just not really my bag, not something. I'm all about the strategy. I've kind of brought this up before secretly, like on my Discord channel and stuff, but I'm not even really like a huge Marvel fanboy. I've seen most of the movies, though I haven't seen anything in the past few years because Spider-Man, the newest Spider-Man, you can't watch online, so I haven't watched Spider-Man, and then I haven't watched anything that came after Spider-Man. So I do keep up with some of the stuff. The production quality is pretty high, and I like some of the stories, so I do tend to watch it because I am a fan of movies, but I'm not necessarily a fan of Marvel. I'd say I was more of like a Batman fan, especially like Dark Knight, pretty incredible, but I really don't care about that either. It's it's just I'm in it for the strategy of it all. So I know that there are people that will appreciate that, and good for them. So there we go. And then some series drops. We're going to get a whole bunch of series drops across the board, except not quite across the entire board. Darkhawk and Null, which were previously supposed to drop down to Series 3, are now going to be staying at Series 4. So that one's kind of interesting. But we're going to have 6 new cards that we do get to open up at the end of this video, so I guess that's cool. And I already have Null. I bought Null when it was a Series 5 card the second it dropped. So I think I got my value out of Null. I still don't have Darkhawk, and I guess I will still wait just a little bit longer. The ranked mode is now changing, so this is an interesting one. It is a net positive thing for players. The math of it's kind of funny. So previously you had to go 5 ranks, and at 10 each, that was 50. Now you have to go 7 ranks. At 7 each, it's 49. It's 1 less cube. However, that first initial climb is going to be easier. That first initial climb, if you started at rank 70, from 70 to 80, is now only 70 cubes as opposed to 100. You're grabbing 3 bonus ranks. Same thing if you started at 50, then 50 to 60 is now only 70 cubes rather than 100. So everybody's basically getting 30 bonus cubes plus 1 extra bonus cube per rank up. Otherwise, it's kind of the same. I do like the fact that if you win an 8-cuber, you will always rank up. That is kind of cool. Otherwise, it's like very, very similar, but I think it will make it seem a little faster. It's also going to mean that if you lose an 8-cube game, you definitely go down a rank. So those 8-cube losses are going to feel like they hurt a little bit more. But overall, well, I'll say it's probably a bad change, to be honest. I like there being... I like rank to be an accomplishment. And I know that a lot of my viewers probably want to get to infinite rank, and I think that it should be possible for everyone. At the same time, if everybody can get infinite, then it does kind of devalue it when you do get infinite. And this is something that I might have touched on a little bit in my video last week. I don't think I really did, but the fact that it's so easy to get infinite, and I'm kind of like trying to watch my words a little bit, knowing that there's a lot of people that watch me that are struggling to get infinite or trying to get infinite. So I don't want to make it seem like it is just a super easy thing. I will just say for me, I got infinite this season faster than I ever have these past 2 seasons. That kind of makes me feel not as excited to play the game, because once you hit infinite, like I said, you take away the snap out of Marvel Snap, and it's just not as exciting to play. But it is good for players to be able to feel like they can hit it, and to some players it just feels like an insurmountable thing. I feel like Hearthstone, though, you look at that as an example, hitting Legend in Hearthstone, I feel like does feel like an accomplishment. Maybe it doesn't feel like that to everyone, but you have to, like, you can play Hearthstone well and fall short of hitting Legend every season unless you, like, really, really put in the effort. And now it feels like, you know, maybe one thing they could do is, like, no bonus cubes from 89 to 90. From 90 to 100, you got to go the full way. You don't start at 93. Which would balance out and actually make it just as easy. But the point is, they're trying to make it easier to get infinite. And yeah, so for those of you still looking to hit infinite, this is a great thing here for you. Audio lines, I generally don't even play with the in-game audio on. I play like listening to podcasts and stuff, but again, for the people into that stuff, and they do put a lot of great work into it, this is a lot of fun. And then here's the meat and potatoes, the balance updates. This is going to be some big shakeups for a lot of new and existing cards here. So first off, Kitty Pryde, basically just a new card. It was out for a brief second, and then they had to disable it. You can return this to your hand to get +2 power. Now it says you have to return it to your hand. So I have brought this up previously. This card's a lot less flexible. It means that unless you are able to shrink it with Beast, which is still going to be a kind of cool strategy, though also a little bit harder, it means that if you want to play it, if you want to get power from it, you have to play it on turn 6. And I guess I should take that back a little bit. You can still get power from Kitty Pryde by continually playing it into Angela and then having it return and not playing it on the final turn, and you would have still gotten some value from it. Same thing with Bishop. For the most part, if you want to actually make use of that +2 power, you have to play her on turn 6, which means that you can't play her alongside a 6-cost card for the most part. So she's definitely really looking to be played in those decks with Angela and Bishop and Sarah, which would technically allow you to play her alongside tier 6 characters. The other thing that you can do that is cool is you can play her with Beast. However, that also just got harder. So previously, you could go turn 1 Kitty Pryde, and I say previously, even though Kitty Pryde was never really released before, if we're being honest, but you could play Kitty Pryde on turn 1, turn 2, play Beast, bounce her, and then she's free for the rest of the game, so you can always play her and return her. Now, if you want to do that, you can still play her on turn 1, still play her on turn 2, but turn 3, you'll have to commit to Kitty plus Beast. I guess you could play it after that fact, but you just have to play Beast on the same turn that you play Kitty Pryde. So that's the important thing to note there. It does seem like she's cool. I think the fact that Sunspot was nerfed since her initial release is going to help, but then we also have Nebula now. She is also kind of a really good answer to Nebula, so that's kind of funny to bring her back into the game. I think that, yeah, I didn't really even think about that, but Nebula, you just play Kitty Pryde on her every turn, and Nebula is going to start to feel a lot worse, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Next up, we have Crystal, which is such a bad card, probably one of the, if not the worst card and least played card in Marvel Snap, that basically feels like a new card here. Previously, on reveal, if this is at the middle location, shuffle in your hand and draw 3 new cards. Now, It's just both players draw a card. Party draw. Jace Beleren. This seems great. Crystal has been seeing incredibly low play and low win rates for quite some time. Remove the middle restriction. We don't need that. They don't want to increase the cards that you draw, which I can understand that. And they wanted to keep in the shuffle, but I think this is good. I'm gonna stop reading the paragraph here. I think that this is really good, really cool. I think that there are a number of ways to take more advantage of symmetrical draw. One way is just if your card draw, this is the most straightforward thing. If drawing a card means more to you than it does to your opponent, and you're almost drawing them 2 cards in this way, because, well, Crystal's a 4/4, but she's not super great, so you're kind of losing the Crystal, and then they're getting a card and you're getting a card. So it's I don't know what I'm saying about drawing them 2 cards. Don't worry about that part. Point is, you're drawing them a card, and then you're drawing a card, but if you can make your card matter more than whatever they draw, then you're actually getting the advantage. So I would think that the biggest example of this is probably Galactus decks. That's always where my head goes to first. I said on Reddit recently that I think my head is broken because I look at every card as a Galactus card and how it's going to impact Galactus. By the way, Kitty Pryde will be good against Doc Ock. Also, that's something to consider. Doc Ock stock drops with the Kitty Pryde new release. But Crystal, I think, is pretty good for Galactus, just making your 12-card deck into an 11-card deck. And then you've got America Chavez, and then you've got Kang, and then you've got Iron Lad. And it is actually possible that with the Kang redraw plus Crystal, and they do have some kind of negative synergy. It is important to point that out, that Crystal, if it draws you your Kang, then you won't be able to use Kang to draw 1 card deeper into your deck. But let's say you play turn 4 Crystal, play turn 3 Electro, turn 4 Crystal, turn 5 you draw Kang, and then you play Kang. You will then have only 1 card in your deck on the final turn of the game for Iron Lad to hit, which is pretty incredible. Or even on turn 5, because it can't hit America Chavez. So you can play Iron Lad on turn 5, guaranteed to hit Galactus now, which is pretty big. Which is definitely pretty big. Now, what do you cut? Do you have to cut Absorbing Man? Do you want to put in Psylocke so that way you can curve into Psylocke Crystal Wave, potentially, or Psylocke Crystal Electro, potentially. But this seems good. Definitely seems good to me. The other way that you can have non-sequential or non-symmetrical draws rather benefit you, if you're playing another type of combo deck like Hela, I could see it being beneficial. You can also kind of take advantage of discard plus draw. There's some interesting synergy there. Basically, if you're playing any type of synergy, but a huge one that comes to mind is also going to be Mr. Negative decks. Now, this is not a card that works with Mr. Negative because it's a 4/4, so it's going to be a 4/4 after you flip it, but just having it in your opening hand in the same way that people play Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, in their Mr. Negative decks, which is horrible with Mr. Negative. It becomes unplayable. This could just help draw you 1 card deeper, which could help you find that flipped over Iron Man. Now, maybe Jane is just better at this job, but it is a little bit cheaper. It does work with Zabu, and it does work with Wong as well. So it could slot into the Mr. Negative Wong deck. I was trying to see if I could pull it up here. I think this will flash into my Galactus list. Yes. Oh, sorry. I meant to hit this. Yeah, but I can change this. Let me throw this on the screen. So maybe you could fit Crystal into this deck right here. One thing that I did just kind of mention, but also wanted to talk about, Crystal's a 4-cost card, and it's actually pretty embarrassing that Crystal has seen such little play, despite the fact that she costs 4 and can be discounted with Zabu, which has been like a really insanely powerful card the past few months. So that just kind of tells you how bad Crystal actually is, but now you might throw it into a Zabu Wong Mr. Negative list like this, and maybe you cut the Absorbing Man from this list and just go forward from there. Seems like that could be good. We do have Wave. I just mentioned Wave. Wave now doesn't allow you to grab additional discounts on top of it, which I think definitely makes sense. Wave was always weird as like just such an efficient way to cheat out Death and She-Hulk that honestly it felt weird in the game to me. People have been saying Wave is dead, Wave is totally unplayable. Wave is still great in two of my favorite decks, which is Galactus and Leech Leader, Sandwave. So maybe you don't play Leech at this point, but still, leader decks with Sandwave in them are still going to be able to wave just as good, if not better, because one thing that was awkward about that deck is you'd play Wave as kind of a Sandman to make sure that each player could only play one card this turn, and then your opponent just gets around that in so many different ways. Serra, Zabu, Death, She-Hulk, all of these different ways. Now Wave kind of has, I don't know, your waves are stronger. Wave matters more. I think that Wave is still going to be fine and is still totally cool, totally awesome. We also see a new change to Death. They're kind of trying to help out destruction-based Death decks. I think that they got the word Galactus right here. I think that this is going to be a buff to Galactus lists. I think that Death is going to be quite good in Galactus. I think that it already was, but now it will continue to be even better. You're just going to more frequently be able to play Death plus Shang-Chi or even Death plus Chavez on that final turn of the game for a whole bunch of power. White Queen has a text change, so I'm not going to read into that. Now, we'll read into the bug fixes. These I have not read at all, so I don't know what I'm getting myself into here, but let's read through them. Retreating while Kang is rewinding should no longer cause an all-snap error. Okay. Quake shuffling should no longer prevent Shuri's buff from being applied. Okay, you know what? I think I'm over this. No, I'll read through them here. Rare and super rare labels on cards should now be properly translated. Energy UI assets should no longer overlap. A lot of shoulds. Guess they're just hedging their bets here. Energy UI should no longer overlap when gaining energy. Speech Bubble UI should no longer be hidden by cards in hand. Electro and Sandman no longer show their visual effects if they've been morphed into another card. When you play Electro into Gamma Lab and you still have the electricity every turn. Yeah, that was weird. Playing Hulkbuster on Iron Fist should now correctly show the merged card move. Oh, that was like a visual thing. But it was working as intended, just visually looked weird. Said his favorite text should no longer overlap with the star. Snowguard Hawk should no longer cause an all snap. I've never seen that card. When played on Nowhere with other on reveal cards. Nowhere's visual effects for on reveal should no longer display when the location is disabled by Snowguard Hawk. Unseen cards with reference cards such as Snowguard should now show their reference cards when viewed for the first time in the token shop. That makes sense. Many localization adjustments to the size of text in Thai. She-Hulk adjusted so her fist no longer obscures her power. Spaces should be better handled by card search. Cards that have had their power altered should show the proper adjustment. Season Pass should now include the mystery variant on the free track. The weekly spotlight should now update appropriately when new cards are released. Token balance should be visible when viewing a card. Okay, that's a big one. Jeff should be able to move where he pleases after being returned by Beast, and Sentry should no longer cause an all-snap error. That's funny, just playing it gave you an error. That's funny. There are still some known issues. So I don't see any of these that seem like they are particularly important. There's honestly too many of these. I'll read through them off stream when I'm no longer recording, but one other thing that I wanted to do for this video was open up some collector's reserves, because we got 6 new cards added to the game. So let me go through these. And I am going to open up boosters, or grab these boosters as well, just to have a more accurate representation of how many collector's reserves I actually have. But at some point, here we go. We will find the new collector's reserves, and we're going to open up a few of these to get all of the brand new cards that were just added to the game. So we'll get a few cosmetics in this video as well. Yeah, this can be one video. That's fine. I was thinking about maybe making this 2 videos, just so that way I can kind of like stretch out my content a little bit, because I'm going to be going away for a minute. And I want like a week's worth of backlogged content, but that's okay. All right, this one should be a new card. Sentry, there we go. No longer crashes the game. I got them variants, not super exciting. Mysterio, I play a different Mysterio, so don't really care about that, though it is kind of a funny one to play. You're like a clone. You're like a... It's mysterious who you are. It could be a fun one if you're trying to impersonate somebody in Marvel Snap, which is way too easy to do. Sauron. Okay, this is a card that I am really excited to try out. I think that it seems cool, but wasn't willing to spend a bunch of tokens on it. And you know what? Speaking of tokens, that reminds me, maybe I'll have to load up Discord, but there's some more announcements to card acquisition that I didn't really get the chance to talk about in running through everything. I thought there was going to be more stuff. So after this opening, I'm going to load up Discord and chat some more about some other changes happening in Marvel Snap right now. If I lose, do not take credit. Yeah, I do not like that one. That one always kind of just reads as like very salty, very weird. Getting a bunch of collector's tokens right now. That's fun. Dazzler, no interest in this one. That is another 4/4 that sees very little play and probably had no business releasing at Series 5, which is kind of a change that I do agree with, that not all cards need to release at Series 5. I don't agree with all of the changes. There's Shadow King. I think there's one more brand new card that I have yet to unlock. Never Lucky, that's a fun one to equip for no lucks given here. Rock Slide, recently nerfed slightly over the air. And then Silver Surfer, so that's got to be all of them. Let me check this here. Yeah, we got Silver Surfer, Sentry, Dazzler, Shadow King, Sauron, and Ghost. I need Ghost, baby. All right, let's grab Ghost. Decent amount of collector's tokens here too. And there's Ghost. So that's all of the new cards. We can open up one more, find the cosmetic out of this string. I think this will get me a cosmetic right here. There we go. This is another card that really does not see much play. Okay, yeah, now we've got the avatar on each deck. That is kind of cool. And will allow you to easily see what each different deck is. What is that card called? Dagger. Okay, grabbed the dagger. So, yeah, like I said, there are a few other things that I think I wanted to talk about. So let me load up Discord and let's talk about those now. So there's a lot of text here on card acquisition updates. I think let's just start by reading through it and just making sure that we fully understand everything that's going on here. The next few months are going to be truly epic for Marvel Snap. We've got a new game mode coming next month called Conquest. I am excited for that. Marvel Snap on Windows continues to get polished and prepared for its global launch. I am excited for that. I think that they've made some really nice improvements to that, to the point where I think I would now feel comfortable streaming Marvel Snap. It runs really well on my computer. I even have it running right now as I'm recording this, and no issues. Just in the background here for no real reason. But I think that doing some Marvel Snap streams are definitely possible in the future because of the improvements that they've made so far. We've seen a lot of questions and feedback about how we introduce new cards to Marvel Snap. With our next patch on the horizon, we'd like to share some updates about our plans to improve how you acquire new cards. Our goal over the next few months is to find ways for more people to get the chance to play with new cards more often. Flexible Series Release. We've heard many players express that releasing every card in Series 5 is interfering with their ability to get excited about those new releases. I do understand that. Howard the Duck is not as good as Iron Lad, just as an example from the current season. A lot of people are excited about High Evolutionary and Living Tribunal. It's much harder to get excited about cards like Dazzler and Shadow King that just are either tech cards or just a little bit of stats, but no like huge fancy effects. It's more exciting to get excited about the splashier cards, and splashier cards, be they more powerful or not, are going to feel like they justify that Series 5 tag a lot more than some other ones. So we don't want you to feel pressured to wait for series drops in order to enjoy that content. I probably still will in trying to maximize the most out of my collection, but more on that in a moment. We'd like you to be able to play with more new cards each month. Our goal is to make all new card releases feel exciting, accessible, and impactful in Marvel Snap. One thing that is interesting is part of the goal for how they set up card acquisition in Marvel Snap originally was that each player in the game would get random cards at random points and everyone's collection would be different. Now, with a system where all cards cost the same and people only want to spend their tokens on the best ones, you're certainly homogenizing the player base into everyone purchasing the same cards and having the exact same holes in their collection. I'm sure I'm not the only person that waited till today to pick up Dazzler, though some players open up chests to grab Series 4 cards. Some players just wait till they're Series 3. Point still stands, there's a lot of people that aren't excited about all of the same cards. Our goal is to make all new card releases feel exciting, accessible, and impactful in Marvel Snap. In future seasons, we'll be experimenting with releasing some cards directly to Series 4, starting with 2 cards in Series 4 in June. We believe releasing some cards at lower token costs will increase accessibility and excitement for new cards released each week. We'll be listening to your feedback to find the right balance. I do think that is probably correct. I'm just not excited about the next section, which I think kind of takes a little bit of the wind out of making some of these things more accessible. And that's the obfuscation over what's actually happening here. So, in addition to modifying the release for some cards, we'll also be taking a look at series drops for all cards. Currently, all cards are on the same schedule, moving from 5 to 4 and eventually 3. However, the reality is that not all cards are equally appealing, so in the future we're going to flexibly decide when we want to drop some cards depending and when. Sometimes this means preserving the series of a card, as is the case with Thanos and Galactus. Other times this means we may drop a card from Series 5 to Series 3 because we want more people to play with it. We may even skip a monthly series drop entirely when the meta looks fun and healthy. These decisions will be made on a card-by-card basis based on data and player feedback instead of applying a blanket rule to all cards. Here's some player feedback. I don't like the idea that Darkhawk is super played right now, so it's going to stay at Series 4. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it does. It makes perfect sense. It just feels more or less like then the tokens are really paying for power as opposed to paying for early access. I don't know. In our upcoming patch, we're dropping more cards into Series 3 than we ever have before. That is true. In addition, some of our cards that are more impactful are staying in their given series for longer than expected. There's some fun cards in this drop, and we hope they inspire you to experiment with new decks. And yeah, it's true. I don't know. It's just a little bit weird. I think that what I don't like about it is, and maybe I haven't fully figured out all of my thoughts around this before hitting record and going into a rant here, but you're always going to have people like me who just hang on to their resources for as long as possible. And the problem is that it's not sustainable. That's my problem with, like, they want you to spend like $50 a week on the game to get the new cards, and maybe now that goes down to $30 a week or something. It's just not what I'm looking to do. I'd be looking to make a one-time purchase that if I could spend $25 and then just have every new card at release. But that's just my wallet, what I'm willing to put into it. You know, money's going to mean different things to everyone. I don't like subscription-based things. I do think the game is fun and supporting the devs is good. I just don't like the model, and it's why I really don't play any other collectible card games. But I like this game enough, I liked Ben Brode enough that I figured I would give it a shot. And I do really like the game. I just don't like the kind of card acquisition that makes you feel like you have to keep up with everything. I am much more content to play the same deck. As you've seen, I've played Galactus for 3-4 seasons now and used it to hit infinite. I'm very content doing that. It's not that fun on the content creation side of things, so as I look to create more content, then I might put more money into the game, but I'm only going to do that if the content that I'm creating is earning me enough money to pay for it. I'm not going to do it just because I find it fun to play with new cards and stuff, because it's not sustainable. There's always going to be a new card. There's a new card every single week, and it's just a lot to keep up with. So, I don't know. I'm not super happy with kind of all of this stuff. It does seem like they're pulling back a little bit, but it still is probably not a system that I will engage with super heavily. There is one thing about it that is kind of weird here that we'll get into too. So Series 3 card acquisition, they made some changes to Series 3 players that greatly increased their token earn rate and introduced a free seasonal choose your card. And I think I missed my free seasonal choose your card with what I just did. Shoot. That stinks. Oh well, it's like a loss of 1,000 tokens, I guess, which is a lot. Dang. In trying to min-max everything, I got excited and I
I got too excited that I forgot to min-max everything. Should have claimed my free seasonal card. Whoops. And yeah, but okay. So besides that, I'll put that in the back of my mind for a moment. It's weird because I thought the entire point of the token system was to give players that are entering into Series 3 more choices in how they developed their collection. If you wanted to grab Mr. Negative because you've got some other cool cards that work with Mr. Negative, or you wanted to grab, I don't know if Lockjaw is a Series 3 card. If you wanted to grab, I'm having trouble because I don't know what is Series 3 and what isn't. Say you wanted to grab Black Panther, which is now Series 3. I thought that was supposed to be part of the point. Wong, I know that's one that a lot of players wanted access to. I thought that was supposed to be part of the point, and now they're giving you another... They're saying the flexibility to use tokens for Series 3 cards. So now you can use it to get a mystery card? I thought this was supposed to be, like, you could choose which card you wanted. I thought that was the whole point of the token shop. So this section really just put me off, and I think it's really weird. Because you should just be able to pick a card for 1,000 tokens. That's how it used to be. So it's weird that you can't do that anymore. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm just totally misremembering it, because I never actually made use of this because I was already Series 3 complete when tokens had been introduced to the game. But I'm pretty sure that's how it worked, and it's weird that it isn't how it works anymore, if it did used to. Over the last couple months, we've been making adjustments to increase the rate players are able to acquire tokens. This is one thing I've been thinking, they are not going to just make cards cheaper, they're just going to give us more tokens, which makes a lot of sense. It makes you feel like your previous investments weren't for naught, you're just now getting the opportunity to invest into more different things. So I like that. In theory, I hate the implementation. We're introducing some features to reward more tokens to more players. Our goal is that with these new features increasing the flow of tokens, players will be able to purchase more new cards more frequently. And that is part of the issue. I don't want to purchase more cards more frequently. I want to purchase more cards when I want to. You're not going to make me buy Dazzler, Ben Brode. I'm just not going to do it. So that is part of the issue, is they want you to just keep spending these tokens, but they want you to do that so that way you get in the habit of spending them, get in the habit of getting excited for the new card, and then when you can't, I'll put $5 into the game. It's more like $20. I'll put $20 into the game this month and get that one card because I've been able to get everything else on time. And it's just not how I want to engage in the system. I'm typically just going to buy the cards that I really, really want when I want them as soon as they drop, and then otherwise wait for them to drop to Series 3, so that way I can buy as many cards as I want to as soon as they drop, by saving my resources elsewhere. And I don't think this is going to change at all how I interact with the system. Now, if I really like Conquest Mode, or I really liked Tournaments, or something like that, then I would potentially be more willing to buy more new cards. I don't even buy the Season Pass, so kind of a different type of player than some of the players that they're aiming to please here, but when Battle Mode first came out and Tournaments were rolling out, now, as it turns out, I found I don't really have the time or drive to really compete in tournaments. I've entered into a few tournaments and then gone 4-1 and dropped just because I had something to do that night or something like that. So one thing, what was I getting at with that? If there's more competitive modes that then require you to buy new things to keep up, that's when I have engaged with systems like this in the past, like in Hearthstone, but even then I typically just stockpile as much as I can, and then when I want to compete, because I might not compete in a tournament every month. I might every 3 months decide I want to compete in 3 tournaments if there's a deck I really like or a format I really like. So I'll stockpile all of my stuff until then, and then I'll play in a bunch of events. So that's kind of what I typically tend to do, and kind of mimics how I was engaging with the token system. Let's get to the next part. Weekend missions, which I think is a cool thing. By the weekend, well, it's hit or miss, because it's nice to have some time not playing Marvel Snap, right? Especially on the weekend. Might just be other things I'm doing, and I might just be too busy. But typically by the weekend, if you've completed all of your weekly missions, you log in on the weekend and there's not that much to do. You can take advantage of the featured location, which is always fun, but your missions are done for the week for the most part, and then you're like stockpiling the missions so that way you can easily complete more missions on Monday. You're still doing your daily missions, but you're just not needing to hit those thresholds of 75 weekly missions or whatever it is. So now they're adding weekend missions, which can give you an opportunity to earn credits, gold if you've spent the $10 a month, or tokens if you've spent the tokens. So part of why I can't get super excited about this is I'm not going to buy this. This isn't a little bit of extra gold is probably not going to push me into buying the season pass card. The only thing that would make me do that is like if my content is earning enough to then justify the purchase. That's just kind of how I look at it, because I still have enough fun without engaging and keeping up with the newest card. I don't feel like you need it. You can wait. I just got Silver Surfer a few minutes ago and I was fine without it, even though Silver Surfer was totally broken and now it doesn't see any play at all. This part is the interesting part though. This I don't think is going to be a huge decision maker either way. And it actually kind of is like awkward for them because, well, so 2 things. It's a little bit awkward because it obfuscates the rewards that you get for a cash purchase that you have to make, which I don't think is intentional on their part. It might make some people say, oh, I need to get Nebula to win the things and be able to do that. I think it's a little bit weird though, and then here's the other weird part about this. This might now make people complain if the season pass card isn't strong enough, and then they're unable to win games with the season pass card to earn gold. Which I think is really terrible, because we've had seasons where the season pass card is just the best card in the game. Silver Surfer just mentioned Zabu. I've brought that up a few times throughout this video. That's not fun. That is definitely not the type of game that I want to play. A game where you have to spend to remain competitive and everything that you've purchased in the past is like irrelevant. Super dumb. This one is actually okay. What it really is it's a discount on spending tokens. So it's making cards cheaper to purchase without actually making them cheaper, and in a pretty subtle way that I think is interesting. So it might make me a little bit more interested in buying cards at Series 4. However, if cards that are at Series 4 are then going to be like the first candidates to drop to Series 3 because they're deemed not exciting enough for Series 5, then they'll probably become Series 3 eventually too. So you probably still don't need to engage with this. So it's just going to be, it's like, oh, here's more tokens, but it's just more tokens for like the whales and stuff. It's not really more tokens for the average player who are going to just continue to not engage with this system. So I think that they missed the mark on that. I have downvoted them appropriately where to kind of let my opinion be known here, because I'm not super excited about these changes to the game. But for today, that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys very much for watching. I think I covered everything. Let me know your thoughts on anything that I've talked about in this video today. We went over a lot. I'm going to go grab some water.
Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lux Given. Peace.